1920s that basically
Well, look,
started.
all right. So all right. So here, you're right. You got it. You framed it. But what is the right way? I think again, this can be very controversial. But in the history of people and civilizations, etc., it really looks like, I don't know, maybe the same thing is true in a marriage too, with these two that are fighting. You have to decide what you're doing. If what you're doing is completing your list of grievances, everybody has run into the wall where it's gone on too long, and enough isn't. This is as much as you're going to get back on this, and now that's it. You can't keep bringing this up anymore. This is the only area, feminism's another one of these, where it's looked at as a perennial. Anytime I want, I can use this. No, I think there comes a point where you have to say, this is not up for discussion anymore. How many more times are we going to have a logical discussion of race? Everybody knows if you want to poison race, you can use it to poison people. If you want to rise above it, you could do it by being nonviolent and active in politics and get elected to office. So what are we going to do? Just pretend every time around? I think it's setting a bad precedent. What do you think? What's the answer to what's the answer to the complexity of race? Complexity of.
I think. Well, it's because this is stuff that's really obviously in this country has happened since the beginning of the country, and it's been exacerbated. Even the whole idea of race and like one group better than other group has been around, and obviously was pushed forward.
Yeah, we weren't the only ones. The whole world was like that. That's right. A couple 300 years ago, everybody did that. It's wrong. It's economic. It's really economic exploitation cloaked in what do you call it? Not that. What's the right word? It's economic exploitation, but it's cloaked in the myth, in a myth of inequality. Everybody now knows on planet Earth, under oath, under truth serum, it doesn't matter what color a baby is born as to what it's capable of. If it's treated like garbage, it could wind up in jail at 15 and be a murderer. We all know this. So I don't understand what will serve if we start from scratch with this and go, okay, who's upset and why? All right, hands up, who's upset and why? I mean, it just seems like it'll be endless.
I think because of where we're at, in terms of if you want to consider the world, the country, whatever, it's got to be one of these ongoing things. I really believe that because
why? Because we're unlearnable. Because we can't. Why would it be a continual? Because we can't learn it, or it's unlearnable.
I think it's learnable, but I think it takes a long time to learn it, and I think because of a lot of. It's not.
So beyond one, let me ask it this way. I love what you're going for. I want to follow it through. Is it way too soon in one lifetime? You've had how many generations? Yeah. Really? Really? In other words, let me ask it. Let me ask it this way: If what the worst of this is happens to your parents, and you are in a different environment, but what happened to your parents bothers you, your father never got a good job, your mother had to work for low pay, they got cut first every time because they were black. It's not your thing, but you know what happened. Are you supposed to carry that into your life? You got to put that chip on your shoulder and go, you know what you did to my dad? You know what my parents... I don't think you get anywhere with that. I think that's self-defeating. So unless you can say today, hey, they fired me because I was the only black guy that spoke out. I was the only outspoken black in the company, and they fired me for that. Of course I'm going to support that guy. But I don't go for this idea of systemic discrimination is so bad that every system they find is corrupt. Every system is corrupt. Every city is corrupt. Every county is corrupt. Every governor is corrupt. I mean, how long with this? So then you have to say, honestly, then I guess it's insolvable. If it's really going to just repeat, and we're going to go over the same things, and we're going to change, it's like you're a math guy. Same problem, we're going to change the numbers. Do another long division for me. Do another algorithm for me. Do another equation for me. Give me the price of peaches, then give me the price of watermelon. So what are we doing? Yeah. We're pretending that we're going to solve it when it's insolvable, or if it takes several lifetimes, what is the value of it then? Seriously, am I supposed to live my life for somebody in the year 2050, 2090? I have to, there's a limit to that. They would benefit if I do well. Then I'm handing them something as a legacy. But I don't really think I'm going to use my generation as a piece of scratch paper. And then 50 years after I'm long gone, I mean, I made it at 58 years. This is a long time for anything in public. Some of the participants are passing away. What are you going to do now? Get mad at their sons and their daughters? I mean, some of the worst of this stuff is going to die anyway. With the Donald Sterling, how much longer does this guy have?
Right. I mean, no, but that's what I mean is that what happens over time. I guess the term for me is vigilance, and this applies to the press. This applies, to race. I know they seem to like do discontinuous things, but.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. But let me ask you, are we not responsible for previous lessons, or we're always starting from El Español al Día, book one? It's always book one. It's always, desayuno and chocolate. Are we ever going to move past the first lesson? Those were Spanish vocabulary words that you learned.
Right. No, I see it as a progressive thing. I think we're many lessons in at this point. I don't think we're at like, 400 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. But I think, obviously you have to keep on going. Yeah, you mean because.
But doesn't this drag us backward? I agree with you, we should keep going. But doesn't Ferguson, the way they attack everything, it's all corrupt here, the whole thing, the cop meant to kill him. Isn't that backwards? There's no evidence that the white people want to go get the blacks. There's no Ku Klux Klan meeting going on every Monday. You can't just say that. But today you can just say that. Today you can say. So that's what I'm asking. I'm asking what are we supposed to do with that? When they come at it, go, the whole thing's corrupt. They meant to kill that kid. They shot him in the back. All this stuff that wasn't true. What are you supposed to do with that? Are you really going to legitimize it and go, okay, all right, I know that's how you feel. Why don't you come in and talk to me? I know that's how you feel. All right, let's have a meeting. I understand that's how. Are you really supposed to do that? Is that the government now is like the parent telling the kid in the backyard he's got to get along? Kids get killed in the backyard. You fall out of a tree, you hit your head.
Sure.
You get killed out there. Your parents are doing everything in the world to help you, but you still decided to climb that effing tree and you broke your neck. So what are we supposed to do with human beings like this? I mean, we're going to just stay in that remedial socialization class? This is it, remedial civilization. We can't get past the remedial and we can't go to advanced. We're advanced. The phone does everything. The computer does everything. 100 years ago, nobody could talk to anybody. You and I could talk to anybody right now on a phone. And by the way, you and I could be on Skype with no phone company. There could be no phone company at all, and we'd be on Skype. So you know what I mean? What are we supposed to do? We're going to hang backwards in one area, like a Neanderthal, and in the other area, we're going to be the Jetsons. Oh, yeah, I could do this, I could do that. It seems to me there's a point where you have to say, look, this is it. It's insufficient, but you're going to bear that burden, and you're going to go forward. You're going to say, I got a rotten deal. I should have got but you're going to move forward. You're not going to sit on your bad deal and go, I'm still getting that bad deal. That was your deal. That's it. That's the way it ended. You were not satisfied. So I don't know. That's impossible, right? That's me whistling in the wind, right?
No, I mean, the thing is, you have a really good point in the sense that, look, and we've all been in bad situations before. A lot of people have bad circumstances, and you say, you know what, I just got to get out of it. Some people are in much worse circumstances than others, and that's a good philosophy to go by. What I am saying is that on top of that, when you see, like, egregious things happen and they're systemic in the system, you have to address it.
You do? Let me ask you, will you and I know, and a couple of other people in a room, if we were sitting there, would we know where to draw the line at what we should address and what we have to tolerate?
Well, I mean, that's going to be arbitrary to us. We're going to have to we're going to have to be involved in this. That's the key, is that it's one of these things where people don't want to deal with this at all. That's the problem. It's one of these things where I feel it's not like it's going to be a full-time thing. I mean, it's not one of these things where you're going to be completely obsessed with it, but it's something that just has to be dealt with and talked about honestly, and then you go on with the rest of your life. I mean, I don't believe that it's one of these things you have to be.
All right, I got one more. I got another bombshell for you. I hear you, but I don't want to miss the time now. I'm watching out for your time. This is a bombshell.
Okay.
Bombshell. A bombshell. Yesterday, 9/11, they ran the actual news of the day of the attack in its entirety. So you see the thing unfold the same way you did that morning, okay? Now, here's what I heard come out of Tom Brokaw's mouth, okay? Within 20 minutes of the second plane. I want you to get ready for what you're going to hear, because this is public knowledge now. They run this every year. This is on the record. Okay. He's got a guy on the phone who's a journalist. And the guy says, Tom, 3 weeks ago, Osama bin Laden gave an interview to The Guardian. And he said he was ready to strike. Now, when Tom hears this, Tom goes, well, Osama bin Laden is, of course, the world's #1 terrorist. But even Tom had not read a British newspaper, which should have been big news, that this guy's openly granting interviews about attacking us.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
on the day of the attack, within 20 minutes, the news media had who did it. Why? Because he was saying he was about to, and then, never mind the memo in the White House, bin Laden determined to attack. So here's my question to you. Now we have some perspective on all this. The day of the attack, and you listen to the rest of that re-airing of the original, all of the news correspondents are echoing the government. We had no idea. Nobody ever thought anybody would do this. That famous line. Whoever thought anyone would fly planes into buildings? I mean, my God. Okay. All of this, golly gee whiz, it reminds me of Judy Garland in the Wizard of Oz. Oh, my God, am I in Kansas? Auntie M. They're acting like the whole journalism community knew this kind of thing was being touted. Of course, they didn't know what day, what address. But here's the question. As comes out on this news, we had no defenses ready that day. We had not taken seriously that they bombed the Cole. They bombed the Kobar Towers. They bombed the World Trade Center the first time. We still had no plan. And I mentioned the guys who were in the F-16s. The reason the F-16s couldn't help is because their default flight plans were to fight the Russians or the Chinese.
Right.
They go out over the ocean.
Right.
You've heard this. They go out over the ocean and they put a perimeter around the continent. But they don't know about going over New York City. They've never had a drill on how to get over New York City, what's the best way to go. So when these guys are told on this tape, we don't care how many windows you have to break, get there. My heart is breaking for them because they are the ones who are supposed to stop the bad guys. They are the security guards of the country, and we, in the electing W and all this, nobody did a thing in the face of that threat. So I don't ever want to hear from people again about, who could. That's nonsense. That idea of using planes came up in Malaysia, where they had a meeting on behalf of bin Laden and his the other one, Sheikh Khalid Mohammed. And the decision was, this is what we're going to do. They just had no idea when, but he goes, I've got it. This is how to do it. You fly these planes into all of these big office buildings, and they won't know what to do. They won't shoot down their own planes, and they won't have a firefight over their cities. It was genius, and we flat-footed. So what's your reaction to that?
Oh, well, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, within this, you got to remember, before 9/11, we were still in the mentality of the Cold War. I mean, even though the Cold War had ended years before, the defense department, the way they thought was very much like, okay, is an ICBM going to come over? How do we deal with that? Even though people had talked about that, I remember hearing about that in the 1990s, about the planes going into buildings. I mean, that was not an old idea. That was an old idea. It was not something that, took, people by storm. They knew that was a possibility.
Exactly.
But
That's right. Number one. Number two, they already knew that these people used the pizza bombers and the car bombers. That's what they use. They don't have soldiers. They have suicide bombers. That's their thing. So we had nothing in place to secure the landmarks. If we would have had the landmarks secured that day, then as soon as the first plane hits, we're like, here we go, we're on. But forget it. Nobody was on nothing, and they were all confused. Even the poor people at the FAA were all confused when they were going back and forth so fast. They had 4 hijackings at one time. The first 2 hit the Trade Center, the other one's going to the Pentagon, and the other one's being brought down by the passengers, 93. So, that jumps out at me. Osama bin Laden was named by Tom Brokaw 20 minutes in. 20 minutes in. Yeah, outrageous. All right, man.
That was it. Everybody. I mean, that was his name. I remember coming up very quickly, and then he made those statements. I mean, not long afterwards, attributed to him that he said it's not going to be just 1, it's going to be 2.
Right.
And that was it. That basically.
I got one more. That clip that I heard. I couldn't believe I was hearing it. As you know, this was Matt Lauer, Katie Couric at the Today Show when this is happening. So we get a clip that they play from the West Bank, and the Palestinians were giving candy to children celebrating the attack on the Trade Center. Yeah, they were out in the street, and they had the cheering at the top of their lungs, and they said they're giving out candy like it's a holiday. They only do this like in the Islamic faith. They don't give out candy very much, but they wanted to tell the children that this is... Now, do the math. All those kids in the madrasa, are they going to be ISIS and ISIL? You bet they are. You bet they are. They're the right age, 18, 19, 20. Who do you think was watching all this stuff when they were 2 years old and they're running for their lives? Then they're 6 years old and they're running for their lives. Now they get older and they're like, I would take up arms against, why not? They've been hating it since they were 3 years old.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but I got to bring up another point is, another way to get somebody who is actually, who's going to be that, absolutely like hating America is if you start sending drone strikes all over the place, taking out people who at weddings, whatever like that, and you'll get an incredible amount of blowback from that also. Now, there's look, there could be those that are bad, but it also says the state we're in terms of the actual, our policy for this. We have decided we're going to go the hard route. This is what the same thing with ISIS. Obama said first we're going to take care of those people in the mountains. Now it's developed basically into a full-scale war. What the real question is, and I think Cheney said it best, is what is the end game? There is no end game. That's the problem. I mean, I keep on saying that. That's the problem a lot. But that is, a big issue for me is that we go back, we hit really hard, but at the same time, is there any sort of way of like, okay, tying the circle together, finally coming to an end where we say, all right, finally the war is over. I don't see this ever. All
right, so look, all right. Let me try and answer this, okay? All right, let me try and give you an option. If you had a meeting with intermediaries and said, we're going to let the caliphate go. You can have your caliphate. You can do what you want. You're a nation. If you want to start a war with Israel, that's your business. We're going to let you be because you are. Because you're here, there's enough of you. You're all in one location. You gave yourself a name. We're going to let you be a country. And now we want your agreement that you're not going to come and wipe out the West. People would laugh at that. They would go, that's like appeasing Hitler. They go, what are you, crazy? You're going to make a deal with a lunatic? This is a guy who's living in the years, he's living in the 7th century, and you're trying to talk to him. So what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with somebody who's back in the 7th century? Are you going to say, please don't kill me if I let you exist? Or are you going to say to him, look, I got news for you. You're never going to be able to sleep. I'm going to bomb you every day until there's no more of you left. What are you going to do with a guy from the 7th century? What are you going to say to him?
Look, we've got gotten to this point, I don't know. It's a good question because I don't know what you do at this point. You got this. You're
you
right.
got to do something.
I mean,
look now.
People definitely hate us. You're saying you got to do something now. My problem.
I love you.
And maybe you're right. Maybe you have to go. Maybe it's getting to a point where you get to a certain point across no return, a point of no return. But there has been so many bungles before that.
You know what, though? I want to tell you. Yeah, but I got to tell you, before you go through the bungles, I'll bring you back to bungles. But I have to say, your transition into bungles, that is what Obama's going through. I believe Obama agrees with you 1,000%. He would really like to tackle this thing, and it drives him insane that he's now going to join in to a cycle of long-term violence. Like, with all the intelligence and all the reasoning and all the stay cool, calm, and collected, he's going to wind up just like George Bush getting sucked in because they want to kill us. They want to start a fight with us. They want the fight with us. They're not satisfied to go for Israel. They get everybody jazzed up in their crowd when they mention us because we have all the money. We have all the decadence. We have all the freedom. Right. So now what? If even a guy like you think, a guy who thinks the way you do and the way you just reason that out, he still winds up fighting them. What would you say to him? Would you say to him, don't give in to this, don't call it a war, don't give a big news conference, don't say you're going to destroy them, you're playing into their hands? Or would you say, like everybody said, you better get out there and say you're going to destroy them because the whole goddamn country wants to destroy them. You're going to be the only one that doesn't want to destroy them pretty soon. You better say it. And he finally goes, all right, it's manageable, but I want to destroy them. But I want, he hates saying this. But he got stuck saying it, didn't he?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know whether he really hates saying this or not, because if you look at what he's done over the past, since he's been in office, between whatever the drones and everything else, it's been in a lot of ways an extension of the Bush policy. So I don't,
But this is what I'm saying. He hates it because I think his thinking matches yours a minute ago. I think for a person who's interested in the big picture, it's very depressing for him to have only the same old option as W's father. It's the same old movie. The bad guys are riled up. Let's go put them down for a while. They'll be back. I mean, he doesn't want to be just another schmo. But guess what? He admitted today it's a war. So now he's really eating his own words. He's got his own war. He's got his own brand new war, this guy. And he deliberately said it because he doesn't. He thought. I think he believed the media. The media turned on him and said he looks weak, and he's been hearing that for too long. And he loves when the media loves him, but when the media doesn't like him, he's got to change the conversation. He can't let them keep every day. Is the president strong enough for ISIS? He can't have that. So that's what I think why he got pulled in. But I think he's got the same problem you do. He knows there's no answer unless we ask Ed Tyll. You could try the Ed Tyll method, but I don't think he won't do it. He won't bring me in. If he would bring me in, I'll get rid of the problem for him. But he won't like the way I do it. He'll be like, oh no.
This is the commentary I have on him because he presented himself, and this is why I never really believed it, but he presented himself as somebody with another point of view, different ideas, going to go after these problems in a different way. And I never really bought into that. I told you I never voted for him. I was very cynical toward the whole thing. And it's coming out. He is very much, whatever he was, he's very much the same old, same old. I mean, he has the ideas he has are very much exactly related to, his predecessors.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think he might have believed that he had superpowers. But when he got there, he did not have superpowers. He thought he did. I think he was telling the truth that he thought with the power of him. But it wasn't. No, that wasn't going to happen. But here's the other thing I think is interesting. All right, he's stuck in this situation now. He's going into this situation. Is he? A guy said the other day. I loved it because it sounds like me talking, but this is not my quote, even though I've said similar. But this quote came out. He's one decision away from being Jimmy Carter.
That's interesting. I believe, I almost agree. I don't know if it's one decision away, but between Ferguson and what's going on with ISIS, I think his presidency can really be thought of as start being thought of as a net at the end, because
that's right. Number one, and number two, he's going to have not had that thing that Bush had. I don't even like it, but the public likes it. When somebody takes a punch at you, George Bush is the first one to jump up and say, "We're going to punch him right now." This guy has an ambivalence about tit for tat. He knows it's expected of him. He's commander-in-chief. Tit for tat, right? Commander-in-chief. What are you going to do? Take shots? No. But he knows that, that doesn't solve. And what does solve, he thinks is morally wrong. That's why he couldn't bring me in. He would say it's immoral to, look, what would Barack Obama do with Japan? Do you think Barack Obama would drop the bomb? I doubt it. He would say, we're hanging in there. He would not drop that bomb. He would say it sends a wrong message. It's going to open a genie out of a bottle. He goes, it's bad enough we have it. He goes, we're going to use it for intimidation. I guarantee that. There's no doubt in my mind. He wouldn't pull it because he wouldn't want to be the guy. He'd be afraid of what it would mean. Truman, on the other hand, put all that second. He's, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill these goddamn Japanese, and they are going to kneel down in front of me. Now, we've spent all this time and money on Hitler. Now you think I'm going to let the Japanese drag us another 6 months? They're bowing now. That's why it took 2 bombs.
And that's exactly what Truman did. You're absolutely right. That
2 bombs.
His attitude. And
2 bombs.
Absolutely.
2 bombs. He didn't want to worry about one. I send another one. You really don't get it? Boom. And of course they were like, oh my God, he'll do this every week. We got to give in. But that's, this is the thing. President is a guardian. He's a commander-in-chief. Especially with ISIS and all this crap. I love how he loves to say, and it's very bad. I'm not saying every president's got to be a military genius, but you got to have your own opinion and not say they're preparing this. This is a bad way to talk with a guy who's cocky across the street throwing bottles at you. For you to come out and say, well, these bottles are hitting us, but I'm getting some options. You're supposed to pick up a bottle and throw one back and say they better get ready. Like I said, I didn't trust Bush because I didn't think he was smart enough. But he knew that, he wasn't born in Texas, but he spent enough time in Texas to know, you got to tell the bully it's on. When the bully comes near, you got to go, it's on. You can't go, well, I don't know, does this really encourage the bully? Am I getting down to the bully's level? You got to go, it's on, and beat him publicly. Well, that's immoral to Obama. I think he feels that that's unfair advantage. We're the superior civilization. They're kind of pathetic and backward. We shouldn't be stomping on them like the Roman Empire. Come on. That's good for class, man. That's not good for soldiers. That's not good for border guards. That's not good for ordinary people.
Well, that statement he made that, we still don't have, any policy, it was very damning. I mean, when he made that statement a few weeks ago, we just don't have any policy on these guys yet. That's it. That's a Jimmy Carter. That's a Carter. That's definitely a Carter move. That's exactly the kind of thing that used to piss people off about Carter. Carter would say, I've taken it under consideration. I'm looking into it. It's a complete inaction. It's a guy with no balls. If you know you don't have a strategy, you come out and you pretend like it's no problem. You go, I got this thing under control, and I'm not talking about it now. Next question. Right. And then everybody goes, wow, look at the president. Jesus Christ, he knows what's going on. Because everybody said, don't go to Congress. Don't make this 435 commanders-in-chief. Go into Congress, say who you want to kill, say where they're located, say what you think you want to do. Drones, which he loves. He loves to drone, this guy. He's a very drone-happy president, so good for that. But I think there's a limit to drones. The drone can't go up there indefinitely. The drone's got to know where it's going, go and leave. So you still got to do your groundwork. You got to spend a lot. Well, here's a question. And I've been thinking about this, especially with as we ramped up militarily. Do you think we will eventually have people there? Do you think definitely? We'll have no doubt. No doubt. I don't think there's no doubt. No doubt. And I think he's the one. He's going to put him there. He's going to put him there, and he's going to make some speech that's going to say, we never thought that they had... You saw today, ISIS all of a sudden has 31,000 fighters.
They went from having 10,000 2 weeks ago, which is nonsense. Of course they had more than that 2 weeks ago. But our intelligence did a reboot, like a new update. And the update is at 31,000 people. Now, 31,000 crazy Islamics that want to blow stuff up? Oh, that's not 31,000, Russian troops. That's not 31,000 North Korean troops even. These are going to be freedom fighters. This is going to be like the Sandinistas. They're going to come screaming over the hill. La, 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 la. The Sandinistas used to come screaming over the hill. They said every time the Sandinistas came against the establishment, they come screaming and firing like kamikazes, just like the Japanese.
Right, old style.
You got it. Old school, right? Old school.
Go 1500s.
When you're losing, you gotta power up. When you're losing a battle, the first thing you do is you gotta start acting like you're crazy. You gotta scare them. So that's what they have. And I can't believe that today, this Thomas Kean, who was on the 9/11 Commission, he was on TV yesterday. The whole world was on TV talking about progress since. And he said the 9/11 recommendations have not been passed. Would you believe what that commission did on television with all those witnesses? They did not pass anything out of that 9/11 commission. Now, they're going to say in their defense, well, we know better. My ass. You got to show the public that you are connected to what those hearings revealed. Those hearings were very troubling. Remember those hearings? You and I knew each other back then. That's when we first met, when those hearings were on.
Yeah. That's right.
So what else have we got? Oh, man, it's good having you on the show, I'll tell you that. So there's another couple of big controversial issues broiling out there. Do you now do anything to protect your identity online? Do you do anything at all to protect yourself, or whatever's in your computer, that's what protects you, and you're on Yahoo and whatever Yahoo has? Or do you do anything to protect yourself?
Very little. Very little. It's just because most of the stuff, my attitude is just whatever I think about, whatever I'm putting out there, and then I say, all right, is this valuable? I think of it in the other way, where I want to see, all right, I just don't put valuable things out there.
At all. So you don't use a credit card? You don't put a credit card online?
No, I do, but I always realize that there's only a limited amount of money they can get, and also if they do it, I could actually get that money back. So I do it, but I'm very, I don't do it on a regular basis. But I figure when I do it, I realize there's a lower bound to like.
Should it be against the law to hack the photos of the celebrities? Hacking your bank account obviously is against the law, but getting in, you're smart enough to get into a website that's got these photos, whatever it is, the Scandal website has them. And they're not publishing them. Oh, don't worry, Jennifer. We have these. We would never put them out there. We want a relationship with you. Then some crazy hacker gets in there, puts them out online, and now he's going to go to jail. I don't know. I mean, I was looking at the story the other day, and I'm like, we got to be careful here. We can't even get justice in Ferguson, and now we have to go get justice for some chick that took nude photos, and somehow they got to some website, and because they went to one website too many. Now we have a criminal justice issue. Now we got to get the courts involved, and now we got to convene a trial over this. I mean, to me, it's like it's paparazzi. This is the electronic paparazzi. They sneak up outside your house. Oh, I look terrible. I don't want any photos. Ed Tyll looks terrible. Ed Tyll looks terrible. We have the photo. This is what they do. My wife is pregnant and fat and drunk. That's it. Photo. This is what they do. So I got it. If they steal money off J-Law. Jennifer Lawrence. If they steal her money, yeah. And if the website says those cost us $5,000, you have to, maybe if you can prove you paid for them. But if you got them and then I snatched them off of you because you didn't protect them, I'm not sure that I'm putting that in court. I mean, I'm going to frown on it. I may let it go for, you want to sue? Go sue. Prove it and sue. But I don't think I'm going to get the cops over there to start handcuffing people over naked photos of a girl who took them voluntarily. It's one thing, you're not allowed to trap somebody in a dressing room and sneak photos on them. I got that. But you make sexy photos, you put them on one website, and you hope they don't go to another one. Good luck. Good luck. So I'm not for prosecuting that. I think it's a First Amendment issue. It's floating around. If I'm a journalist and I get another journalist's source, I'm going with it all the way. I am not, I can't use that because it was in the Washington Post. I'm like, hey, dog eat dog. I got the source now. Source is talking to me. Here's what I got. The public wants what I got. That's how I think it should go. What's your thought about that? About stealing their photos?
Well, there are two issues. One is a monetary aspect of it that these guys are obviously care about. A photo goes out there and it's worth a lot of money, or it can defame them. They want to go after them. But you hit on the key point. I mean, basically, we are in a security age now. We're living in a security state. And because of that, any sort of thing, like you're saying, hacking in any way, basically you have this whole apparatus now. It used to be like, whatever, is this really that big of a crime? Who cares? No, all of a sudden now it's become full circle, and it's like, you know what? We have the ability to go after these guys. We want to make sure, we want to set like a tone where we're going to take one of these hackers and put them away for 15, 20 years, just to make sure that like nobody else. I agree with you there. I think that's where, it should be one of these things.
Going the wrong way. It's going the wrong way. Make it civil. Yeah, you want to have a civil dispute over it, proprietary issues, fine. But you're not going to put give a cell that should go to a thief, what do you call it, a stick-up guy who shot up the bank. I want him in there. I don't need you in there. You have to be, resisted. Resistance is enough. I don't think they have to be collected and rounded up. I want to ask you a non-news question. But I know you'll be into this because long before you and I met, you were already a talk radio fan. So I'm going to ask you
big time.
Yeah, I got a big talk radio question for you. Over the course of my career, by coincidence, the time arc of my career, 70s until now, 40 years, when I started out, radio stations were owned. Pretty much they owned one or two. It would be a newspaper would own one, or, a company would have a couple of stations. And radio was not perfect at any stretch, but it was still hearkening back to its origin. It was trying to be its original self, but it was trying to survive in a competitive business environment. Now, it's been cannibalized, minimized, and disregarded. It's been just called a wasteland. So in the face of all that, this Part 15 radio station category that I'm on, these hyper-local stations with a narrow coverage area, they don't go to 3 cities and 5 cities in a tri-state. They go to one town and one town only. All right. At that level, years ago, this is the question I'm going to ask you now, but looking to today. Years ago, they were kind of looked down on. Oh, little station. What are they going to give you? The weather? Just a little podunk station. That was the term, podunk. From nowhere. Okay. Now, in 2014, I'm on 20 of these. And the guy who runs the, what they call the flagship, the first of the 20, do you know he's one of the first on this EVD virus that's affecting school kids? It's been in the news all week. This guy with this station, all on his own, by him and his wife, have a radio station at their house, and they have 20 stations around the country, and he beat all of the major media by like a day and a half, and this is 10 states being affected. So my question to you is, in 2014, what's the benefit of not getting big, but getting small, getting local, caring about your school system, the kids up the road, the local health official, dominating, and not all of this? What is your thought on that? I happen to think it's great, but I want to know, you're a lover of radio. How does this sound to you to get more local? And then the local guys are much better qualified than in the past. Now you have people with a lot of skills, extremely local. What do you think the benefits? Right. What do you think the benefits of that could be?
The benefits, are obvious. I mean, if you have local guys, you have guys, especially in those areas, that really know what's going on. If they're local to to their region or their state or whatever, they're totally tied into the pulse of what's going on. On top of that, if you have local guys, and this is contrast with what's been going on. I mean, you're talking about the different stations. I mean, really, what's happened is there's been a monopolization of a lot of radio stations. You have a one point purview of what's going on, one point of view, and that's it. with local stations, you can have lots of different views, lots of different viewpoints, and people who are unique and basically can say, whatever they want, and you let the listenership decide what they want to hear. It's just, we grew up in a time where it was sort of starting to, switch over, and you experienced, obviously, doing it yourself. As things started from the 60s and 70s, there still was a lot of, at least local stations, but they started getting more and more bought up by, bigger, corporations. And now it doesn't matter whether it's, you can think of it politically, left or right, whatever. If you're within that corporate rubric, then basically you're going to have to, at least you're going to have to bound your conversation in some sort of way. Everybody sort of knows this now. People have just decided, okay, either I'm going to listen to, these stations, which are like one way, or these stations, which are another way. What's happened now is great. I think if you have this sort of thing, people will see that there is a lot of ways to have. Well,
that's what I believe. That's what I think. I agree with that point. I think that's the most important side of this. It will cause a renaissance. That's what I think we're sitting on the edge of. I think my age is really working against me here, because I think when I'm 70, it's going to be exploding, because Google is doing it with their ads. The smartphone does it for you by asking, can I have your location? Every time you go to a website now, can I have your location? Tell me your location. Would you like to allow me to see your And I never give I don't like being followed. So I do not give that, but I always have to deny it and know that they would like to know where I live, because they would say, oh, would you like to buy some sneakers? There's some sneakers a mile from you that you like. Right. Did you know that you could get pizza right now? Did you know that you could get I hate that. I don't like that. But what they're saying is that's what the public, even if it doesn't like it, in theory, they respond to it. They do use it. Uh-huh. If it pops up, oh, you know what? I am hungry. Boom, let's get some chicken parm. Boom. And in 2 seconds, you're reading something, you're clicking something, and the food's on the way. And you're still surfing. So this is, that's to me where radio needs to go. Local, turn on the radio, and you need to hear what exactly is affecting you. What's going to make your day difficult? What's going to cause traffic? What's going to cause a slowdown? Is the weather going to be? A lot of places in the country, the weather is a factor, right? Certainly New York.
Absolutely.
If you don't know it's going to rain, man, you're going to be miserable in the afternoon when everybody else has an umbrella. You don't. It's severe. So that's to me very. It's got a very heavy, potent. There's a lot in there to explode, because there's a disassociation from the mainstream media. Right away they go, oh, that's a Today Show. Oh, that's the Good Morning. So there's already that going on, that the mainstream looks boring. It looks, cloned, right? You don't see a lot of differentiation. So if you have that dissatisfaction, the minute they pop into something that's good, I think they're going to jump in a heartbeat. I don't think it's going to be a big conversion. They just don't bump into anything right now often enough until these little and when these little stations come up, the station is named usually after the town. Right away you get some civic pride. Well, at least we got one radio station. We got one radio station. At least there's one thing down the road. Yeah, they're pretty good. They're all right. But they're yours, because they come with the town. That I think is valuable. Radio lost that a long time ago with the 100,000 watt reach, where you're in 5 states, 15 states. You lose it. You lose it. Then what are you going to tell them? Who are you talking to? Yeah.
At that point, it has to be generic. I remember growing up, in New Jersey, a small town, and there used to be a radio station, in that general area, in Union County. And basically everybody would listen to it. You had guys, you would even be able to, run into them on occasion.
That's it.
You got it. What was going on?
You got it.
People want that. That's what people really,
Now, you and I are both big Bob Grant fans. He passed away recently. So when you lived in New Jersey, Bob Grant was blasting on the radio for sure. And you got to like him. A lot of people find him very compelling. He's interesting. He's funny, all that. But the truth is, if you were getting ready to leave the house, you had to turn off Bob to get somebody who was going to tell you what was up. Because Bob was never going to stop and give you the weather or know the difference in the temperature in Jersey from Manhattan to the Bronx to White Plains. He wouldn't know. He's battling the PLO nonstop, right? He's in there.
Right.
He's knocking Ron Brown out of the sky, and happy about it. You know what I mean? He's out there,
that.
right?
Yeah.
He's out there. So that's the thing that's been missing, even when you have great shows like Limbaugh is a big success, and Hannity. You still don't have the voice of your town, which I believe in the 80s and 90s was not important. In the 80s and 90s, it was big hair, big cars, big reach. Today, millennials are looking for convenient and not wasteful. Convenient because I like it, and I'm not going to drive 11 miles to eat. What are you, crazy? They would never do such a thing. The newest thing with millennials, they don't want to drive at all. Even when they don't live in a big, big city, they don't want to drive. They want to try and work it out with bicycles and buses. They just have a resistance to this. Jump on the car, burn a couple of gallons of gas. We'll go see what happens. Let's see what we're in the mood for. They don't do that. So, I kind of respect it. I respect it. It wouldn't have occurred to me. I used to believe in the future shock. It was just going to get bigger, more and more impersonal. But this is something I do think is healthy, that people are going back to what's valuable right under my nose, right up the street, within a 2-mile radius of my house. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I think that's a big growth area for radio, and we're at the very beginning of it with these stations that you and I are on right now.
It's very exciting. Very exciting. Because, I think, like you said, it's a whipsaw from what happened in the 80s and 90s. I think people want to go small. And I think also the technology, the fact that people can focus in on particular things in, whether it's, YouTube or whatever, they can focus in on particular types of entertainment or whatever, that flows over to radio. It's like, I want to hear this guy talking about this thing at this time. It's that specific type thing that you can have now.
Correct. That's right. The world has gotten very specific. You're right. People used to say, here's an example. When we were kids, they would go, hey, you in the mood for a movie? Yeah, let's go see what's playing. Today, I'm not going to that. Oh, no, I don't go to... So if it's not the right movie, we don't go to the theater and find out what's there. It's something we want to see. We go to see that specific movie, and then we make fun of all the other movies that were there, and we get out of there. Years ago, I was like, yeah, let's see. You want to go to a baseball game? Yeah, I don't know who they're playing. Let's just go down to baseball and see who's there. Let's go see who they're playing. Let's go see what's going on. No more of that. Now it's like, where am I going? Why am I doing this? Oh, okay, well, I don't think I want to do that. Very picky. All right, so what are you doing this evening? Are you performing? Are you lecturing? Are you going to hang out with the Rolling Stones? What are you doing?
I wish. I'm probably going to go down to Grizzly Pear and see. I see if I can get a spot down there. I usually go. I've had a number of spots this week, so I might just hang out down there and then maybe try to get on next week.
That name throws me off because I don't like gristle in a steak. And I've never had a lot of gristle, but I do know those are the strings that are in the pear. You ever bite a pear and it's got strings in it?
I didn't even make that connection. I thought the name was that was kind of a non sequitur immediately.
No, I think there's gristle in a pear. When you bite a pear, especially if it's not.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's sort of those springy things.
That's it. Now, one last thing I got to tell you. I got to recommend a movie to you. And I don't know if you get it on Netflix or you can see it on YouTube. I know you're a computer guy. But here's what you got to see. The movie is called Whatever Works, starring Larry David, directed by Woody Allen, and the movie came out in 2009, a small movie. Mm-hmm. It is so funny. It is so nihilistic and cynical. It is so smart. The vocabulary is out of control. And the whole movie is like a Larry David rant. The whole movie.
That sounds like fun.
And he hooks up with a young girl. He's a guy who's divorced, lives in the village, and he's teaching kids how to play chess, and he's yelling at all the kids. Every time a kid gets something wrong, he yells at them. So he's walking home one day, talking about life is a waste of time. He tried to kill himself, and it failed. He jumped out the window, and he hit the canopy, and all he did was, injure his leg, and he can't even commit suicide, so he's very upset with himself. He finds a girl begging in the village for like, hey, you got $1? I want to get a cup of coffee. And instead he yells at her and he gets in a big argument with her. So she talks to him and is very sweet the nastier he is. So the movie is about the two of them interacting. He's cynical, old, and nasty, and she's young and optimistic. And the movie's great because he wins. Everything turns out the way he said it would. It's very funny.
Of course. It's a Larry David world.
It is. Larry David world. So it's called Whatever Works, and you will laugh your ass off. I was laughing out loud. It was so funny. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great, man. I need something to cheer me up these days, believe me.
Right on. Well, listen, how's your new pad? How do you like your new pad? I know you're living in new digs.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's one of these things where, it takes a little bit of time to, like, move everything in. Not that I have anything to move in. I'm still, like, I have a lot of stuff on the floor. But
yeah, you live out of, you sleep on a phone book, don't you? Or something like that? Don't you have
it's literally that or, a series of books in my old clothes. I mean, that's so, I like it. It gives me more of a sense of room. At least I look at my apartment. Wow,
that's it. Yeah,
I have like 150 square feet of room.
That's it. Wow, that's big. You mean a whole 100